Hypersonic missiles are being introduced into the arsenal of great powers that can fundamentally alter strategic stability. The latest in the presence of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran unveiled its new hypersonic missile, the Fatah-2. It can evade even the most advanced anti-ballistic missile systems of the US and Israel. Tehran claims that the weapon is a new version of its first domestically made hypersonic ballistic missile it unveiled back in June. So what is the Fatah-2 hypersonic missile? Fatah means conqueror in Farsi.
Iran is home to one of the world's oldest continuous major civilizations, with historical and urban settlements dating back to 7000 BC. On the periphery of the Iranian plateau that forms a natural, massive fortress, throughout the late prehistoric period, the Elamite city-state of Susa was closely tied culturally to the Sumerians of Mesopotamia. These tough mountain master archers would remain longtime rivals of the Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians, and would remain an ever-present threat, pillaging the cities of the Fertile River Valley in times of strength if the opportunity arose, and paying tribute in times of weakness. During one of these turbulent periods, Elam's unique system of matrilinear succession emerged. Sovereignty was hereditary through the royal women, in that a new ruler was always the son of a sister of a previous sovereign's family. Elamite states were among the leading political forces of the ancient Near East for more than 2,000 years. Susa's cultural and political influence also stretched far beyond their borders, to the north and east, to the growing Iranian tribes of the arid plateau. One of these, the Medes, began uniting the tribes, and together with the Babylonians, would ally together to topple the Assyrian Empire, the largest the world had yet seen at the time. The Medes would go on to conquer a vast but short-lived empire, with a magnificent capital city at Ecbatana. One of the tribes allied with the Medes were the Persians. In 553, their leader Cyrus rebelled against his grandfather, the Mede king Astyages, establishing a Persian capital at the ancient Elamite city of Anshan. He finally won a decisive victory in 550 BC, resulting in Astyages' capture by his own dissatisfied nobles, who promptly turned him over to the triumphant Cyrus. The following decade, the ancient Elamite city of Susa fell under Persian control. Although the Medes had been conquered by the Persians, they retained a prominent position. In status and in war, they stood next to their Persian cousins. Their court ceremony was adopted by their new sovereigns, who in the summer months resided in Ecbatana, and the rest of the year in Susa. Many Mede noblemen were employed as officials, governors, and generals. After the fall of Babylon to Cyrus, the venerable city was also made the capital of the empire, and the construction of another capital city of Pasargadae on the Iranian plateau was commissioned. That way the empire could be governed closer to whatever point was most urgent. In stark contrast to his Babylonian and Assyrian predecessors, Cyrus was known as a just king, and tolerant of local religions and customs within his empire. He is praised in the Old Testament of the Bible as a righteous ruler. This massive empire, stretching from Europe to India, was far too large to administer by one man. And under Darius the Great, more than 20 satraps or governors were appointed to administer the provinces, where an efficient system of roads were constructed to facilitate communication, trade, and mobilization of troops throughout the empire. Darius implemented Aramaic as the official language, a uniform currency, and a standard system of weights and measures throughout the empire. He also embarked upon a massive building program in Ecbatana, Susa, Pasargadae, where he built the massive palace complex of Persepolis and the newly conquered province of Egypt. The Persian Achaemenid Empire left a lasting impression on the technology, heritage, and cultural identity of Asia, Europe, and the Middle East.
Like so many other parts of the world, this area, nowadays called the Islamic Republic of Iran, has gone by many names. By far, the most famous of these names is Persia. This name actually comes from a misunderstanding, in which the administrative region of the Achaemenid Empire, Persis or Pars, was mistaken for the name of the entire empire. This shouldn't be too surprising, given that those who gave them this name often named their empires in the same way. Also, in case you're wondering, this was also where the name for the Iranian language, Farsi, comes from. Now, Persia wasn't the name that the people of the Persian Empire used to describe it, and they often used Arya, Iran, or Iranshah to refer to it, which means of the Aryans, the name given to the people who lived there and not, the those other guys. Ancient Iran isn't the same as the modern nation of Iran and has been a name used by many peoples from Syria to Afghanistan to describe the area that they lived in. Now, native names for a nation aren't often the ones used by outsiders. Just ask Deutschland or Zhongguo. Unlike Germany or China, the name for Iran has changed in both formal correspondence and everyday communication. So when did this change occur? When did the majority of people start calling Persia Iran? Well, the change was a fairly recent one, coming about in 1935 when the Shah of Iran, Reza Shah, demanded that everyone stop calling it Persia and start calling it, well, Iran. Reza Shah was a nationalist in the sense that he wanted to make Iran a more unified, centralized state, something made harder by the fact that everyone outside the nation called it and its people by the wrong name. As such, Reza Shah, whilst at the League of Nations, formally asked all other nations to refer to his kingdom as Iran, and that continuing to call it Persia would be seen as disrespectful. Now, some countries, like the United States and Nazi Germany, were pretty quick at taking on these changes, whereas others were not so quick, and by others I mean pretty much exclusively the United Kingdom. Formally, there were some changes at this point, such as the Anglo-Persian Oil Company being renamed to the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. However, at the highest levels of the British government, it was still known as Persia because old habits and all that. British governors and bureaucrats often mistook Iran for simply being a misspelling or variation of Iraq, and so correspondence started to get mixed up. When Reza Shah's successor, Mohammad Reza Shah, came to London, he was originally going to be given the title of Shah of Iran, except that the serving British Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, didn't like Iran's new name and so demanded that it be changed, which it was, much to the annoyance of many Iranian diplomats. As for Mohammad Reza Shah himself, he didn't really care and said both names were perfectly acceptable. That said, momentum was on Iran's side, and by the mid-1970s the name change had finally filtered down to all countries, and the British government was successfully referring to Iran as Iran. And so afterwards, Persia would forever after lose its contemporary meaning and would only be attached to an empire that hadn't existed for roughly 1400 years.
Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has called on Muslim states with political ties to Israel to sever them for a limited time. Meanwhile, on Sunday, Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps Aerospace Force unveiled a hypersonic missile named Fatah 2. Iran has developed this missile despite numerous sanctions from the West. Iran unveiled what it said was its first domestically made hypersonic ballistic missile. Now, according to reports citing officials, the Fatah 2 has a supposed range of 1,400 kilometers. The report further added that the updated version of the missile can reach speeds to match 520, which is 6,170 to 24,700 kilometers per hour. The latest version of Fatah contains a hypersonic glide vehicle warhead that supposedly supports the weapons reaching maximum speed. The first version, Fatah 1, was unveiled in June of 2023. During the unveiling of this weapon, Iran also sent warnings to the United States and Israel. Iran claims the Fatah 2 hypersonic weapon has the capacity to bypass the most advanced anti-ballistic missile systems of the United States and Israel.